Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Voices of a Black Man Town Hall, Can You Hear Me Now, Part 2. The Voices of a Black Man project was birthed out of a movement in the summer of 2020 that spoke about justice, equality, and equity that was needed between races. On January 6, 2021, we had a domestic terrorist attack against our nation's capital. We felt it fitting to bring a town hall to you to hear in-depth discussion through the lens and the voices of a Black man of how that terrorist attack spoke directly to the summer of 2020 protests. My name is Sherelle James. I am founder of the Voices of Black Men and will be your moderator tonight. Part 1 was riveting, amazing, so insightful. And I thank you for being here for Part 2. Let's take a moment and look at a clip from Part 1 and introduce our guests. Hello, my name is Sherelle James, and the Can You Hear Me Now Town Hall was conducted this past Tuesday with an in-depth discussion through the lens and the voices of a Black man.
That's some serious privilege. You got people that were tweeting the locations of Nancy Pelosi during live tweeting the locations of people.
Just from my own experiences, I have to learn how to fight, right? And you have to, regardless of the situation, you cannot let it get you down, right?
Right. I'm already dealing with my own personal life. I broke up with somebody, I got work stuff, I got this, and now I got to go to the store and y'all staring at me because I'm in line with a hoodie. I'm about to fight everybody.
Join us for Part 2 as we bring on special guest, Brian K. McNeil, sales confidence coach, business owner, and speaker. Linwood V. Long Jr., youth pastor, and customer experience account manager. Terrence Lethbridge, life coach and speaker. Trent Wilson Sr., an author, speaker, and coach. Ulrich Edmonds, financial representative. Felton Showell III, founder and chief strategist at Leadership Dynamics International LLC. Happening this Monday, January 18th at 8 p.m. Hey, and welcome back to the Voices of a Black Man's Town Hall. Can you hear me now? Now, I want to be clear that you understand that during this presentation, it's about you hearing and listening to what each and every one of our special guests have to say today. Know that you can comment, but we won't be taking the comments live today. So if you are listening live or you're doing the replay later, definitely leave us a comment. Let us know where you are and how you feel and what moved and motivated you through this discussion. But I urge you to listen first, comment second. Now, with that said, you can always go to www.voicesofablackman.com to find out more information about our platform and to hear each and every one of the speakers that we have tonight. Last summer 2020, they told their story, their personal stories through their lens and their voice. And so please visit to listen and learn more about the men that's going to be on the platform tonight. But we're going to get started. So I would like to introduce Brian K. McNeil, the sales confidence coach, business owner, and speaker. Linwood V. Long Jr., the youth pastor and customer experience account manager. Terrence Lethbridge, life coach and speaker. Trent Wilson Sr., author, speaker, and coach extraordinaire. Ulrich Edmonds, financial representative. And Mr. Felton Showell III, founder and chief strategist of Leadership Dynamics International LLC. Great evening, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Wonderful.
All right. Are you guys ready for this?
Absolutely. Let's do this.
I don't know if you're ready, but I'm excited. I'm excited to have you. We've got 6 of you on, so we're going to see how this goes. I'm excited to have each and every one of you on. And I'm just going to start. You know my style. I just start with a question. We just kick it off.
Let's make it do what it do.
Get it in.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. So the question is this. Now, June 6th is when our nation's capital was under attack. Since then, some people have been arrested. Since then, we've learned that veterans have been involved, law enforcement officers have been involved, state representatives have been involved, people who have ran for city positions have been involved, mayoral positions have been involved, and fellow Americans. Not someone attacking us on our soil, but fellow Americans. So my first question to you is this: as we still unpack this on MLK Day, and I want to make sure I acknowledge that we are honoring Martin Luther King today with our conversation to continue to promote and move forward the dream that was had, and also knowing that 2 days coming up, we will have an inauguration of a new president and vice president, which will make history. So my first question to you, as I threw all of that at you, is do you remember, or can you tell me about where you were January 6th when this was happening, and what you felt then, and as you've been able to unpack it and hear a little bit more over the week and a half, where do you sit now? And I'm going to throw this to Velton first, if you don't mind, sir.
Not at all. Not at all. January 6, 2021, I was actually in my office having conversations with people about some events that we've been working on. And one of the things that I do in my office a lot of times is I will have the TV or some kind of educational content playing in the background. And all of a sudden, I overheard what was going on. And it was kind of perplexing, but it wasn't an overly a surprise. And I don't think any of us should be really surprised at the potential of what happened. I think we should be more surprised at the level it was allowed to progress to. But we should not be surprised that those feelings or those individuals exist. Systematic racism is not the boogeyman. They're real people. And these people are in some powerful positions across the country. And we deal with it every day. Maybe not to that level or not to that magnitude, but it's not something that we are oblivious to, even though we deal with it in different ways, and sometimes we ignore it, but it's there.
Yeah, I remember I was in my car, and funny because in addition to everything else I do, I'm an Uber driver too, because I just love driving and I love being around people. And I see a text come across my screen from my wife. She had posted a quote, and she just said, this is devastating, and this is downright insidious. And I didn't know what she was talking about, so I couldn't answer it. But then later on during the drive, I switched over to talk radio, and then I'm hearing all this on CNN and on Fox News and on MSNBC talking about they're breaking through the doors, they're in the chambers, and all this mass chaos. And I'm just saying, has our world really devolved to this? Have we really come to the point where we are breaking through doors and causing an insurrection because somebody lost an election? And it just blew my mind, because as contentious as this whole election cycle had been, this is just another fallout and another symptom of 2020. Everything was just all screwed up. And while it wasn't surprising to me, it was still shocking because, again, we live in the United States of America, and what we have seen for the majority of 2020, now going into 2021, is not a country that is united, but just in total chaos, really. And that's the only thing I could think about when I heard about it. Not surprised, but still shocked.
I'm going to chime in. I'm going to have to agree. Not surprised, obviously. We've seen a lot in our years. You know, we're older black men, so we've been around. I will say there was pain in my heart. I was sitting there watching this with my son, and my son is currently serving in the military, and he just happens to be in North Carolina now, Green Beret and Green Beret training. And he and I were watching this almost in utter astonishment. I said, it concerns me, not just that we know that this happens. I said, but I guarantee these are some of the people that you serve with. What happens if you turn your back? I mean, just all these thoughts for me rushed through my head at that very moment. Because again, racism does not surprise me. That boldness, they're getting a little more, I will say this, a little more bold than I'd seen it before. And all I could think was if it was the six of us were watching on Capitol Hill, the narrative would have been quite different. I think we all know that, you know. But I guess for me, it was just a disbelief, a sadness, and a pain, and a concern as a father. I'm going to be fine, but I worry about my sons. I worry about I have 3 black sons, men, grown men, great, you know, wonderful young men. One serves in the military, another's a pro football player, and the other's going to go to med school. I mean, great young men.
Right.
And you know, and we have to see this. And I joked with somebody, I said, and we're the problem? I don't think so. You know, it was tough. It was tough to watch. I'm not going to take a bit more time. I'm sorry. Not surprising. To that magnitude, I think I was a little bit shocked. Like, wow, they've just really lost their mind. I know 70 million people voted for, you know, and everybody has their right to vote their way. You know, that's fine. But to what we witnessed was just an embarrassment on this country, an embarrassment on who we are, who stand, what we supposedly stand for. And it was just disheartening, in all honesty. It was disheartening.
If I may, as one of the younger guys on the call,
They can't help it, man. They can't help it.
I say that in jest, but I say it because, you know, one of the things that we talked about before on our previous time together was that, you know, you guys are, with being a little bit more seasoned, unfortunately, the narrative around racism and bigotry hasn't changed. And where we are today was to sit here on January 6th, and I'm sitting at my desk. I'm in the midst of, I've been recently promoted. I'm trying to learn and train and do these things. And I get a text from a Generation Z, a Gen Z young man. And he texts me and says, have you seen the news? Now, I want you to get this now. A Gen Z person is asking me, have I seen the news? And this 29, 28-year-old young man text, the next word to me was privilege. Now, I hadn't seen what was going on. I hadn't seen what was because I was so caught up in my own world. But then it took when I saw this young man who I consider a generation of people who are very informed, but don't pay attention to a lot of the rhetoric and don't pay attention to a lot of the TV, told me to turn to the TV, and I look and I see this terrorism. The first thing I saw, and please forgive the analogy, was the movie Olympus Has Fallen. White House Down.
Yeah.
And man, in that moment, I went from sadness, shock, to complete brokenhearted. Not heartbroken. I was brokenhearted. See, I think as a black male, I became brokenhearted because how did you let these things happen? And I think Trent, you said, you know, we had 6 brothers that gone to Capitol Hill. Man, if we go to any hill, Benny Hill, Temple Hill,
Sugar Hill.
The hill in the back of my house.
Right.
There's an opportunity for us to be taken out of our skin and our souls and our life.
Yeah.
Just by being black. And here I see this terrorism. White House down. Was all I could keep thinking. White House down.
Who was saying?
I'll go ahead and go then. Quick points for me. 3 quick points. First off, as I watched it, I work from home anyway, so I saw at live speed. I heard about the talks that the baby Cheeto gave, and I heard let's take it by combat, and I saw them whip this crowd into shape, and we're gonna go down there, and I'm gonna go with you, which we knew was a lie. So he just went straight back to the White House and watched. My first thing was, wow, how easy was it for them to get up to the building and break glass? Mm-hmm. They're breaking glass. They brought tools with them. Mm-hmm. Wow, how is that possible? So easy. That's my first thought. I couldn't get over how easy was it for them to get up there in the first place. I saw them arguing with police, pushing police. Really? They can get away with doing that, pushing police, grabbing the cop's face mask? Really? They can get away with doing that. That's my first thought. My second thought was, only the white person can get away with that, because if there were black people, there would have been people dead the first time they touched the glass. People would have been shot and sprayed. They would have been shot, so that was really, really crazy to me. But I'm really, really right now, because we've seen so many videos, and the ones that was released this past weekend by the New York Times were really, really crazy. They're inside. They got all this audio. Yeah, let's do this, let's do that, and we're going to do this. I couldn't believe my ears was hearing, but they actually said it. So right now, I am very, very, very curious and very concerned about what are the consequences going to be. What's going to happen to the guy with his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk? What's going to happen to the guy who took her stand out? What's going to happen to the guy with the headgear on? Now he's in jail right now eating organic food because he doesn't eat jail food. Okay, so and you hear reports about how the police gently escorted them down the stairs. How did the lady with no arms and legs and in a motorized wheelchair get inside there? So who opened the doors? So right now, I really, really want to see, and I'm really curious about what these consequences are going to be. Who's going to get jail time? Are they going to get substantial jail time? And I am already prepared to be incredulous and to throw up my hands and say that's all they got. Because we do know there's 2 different systems. Mm-hmm. It can be the same crime, the same tenor, but they'll get a lighter sentence than what I would get. So that blows my mind as well. So right now we could talk all night, but I'm really curious about what's going to be the consequences of these actions.
Right.
I kind of follow suit to what everybody else is saying, and I'm the last one, so I'll keep it really short and concise on the interaction. I walk downstairs from the office. My wife is on the couch. We're all quarantined, and she's like, "Did you see what happened?" I'm like, "No, are the children okay?" And she said, "No." She was like, "These white males are just terrorizing the Capitol building." Mm-hmm. I had not seen it, and I say, "Oh, okay. So, what did you eat for lunch?"
Right.
Right. And she was like, Yuri, if that was you and some of your friends or some people, like it would be different. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, you're aware of that. I'm aware of that. But I'm gonna make this ham and turkey sandwich and I'm gonna go back upstairs because it's just like Brian said, right? It's like, it's like what Trent said. Like it's no boogeyman. It's not like, hey, we're jumping out now. Like it's been there. And now there's a platform to encourage this type of behavior. So that was my reaction.
Yeah,
I have one thing.
Go ahead, Trent.
I'll make this real quick. And we talk about like there's no boogeyman. I'll tell you one of the things that got me is when I on Facebook, I saw, now I've been a coach in this area. I've coached high school kids, put kids, help the kids get to the pros, all this for the last 20 plus years or whatever around there. I literally saw some of the fathers of the kids that I coach who smile in my face.
Mm.
And I told my wife, I said, you know, the old Trent, let's just say it's a good thing it's not the old Trent, but it was going to be hard for me. And I know that because of the arrogance, it's going to walk up, what's up, coach? How you doing? And my first thought is not going to be, how's your child doing? Because I'll reach out to your child. So I'm going to have, I just hope I don't have a blackout. You know what I'm saying? Because that was really, again, we know everybody around us that smiles and likes us in our neighborhoods, is not happy about us living with them and being a part. We already know that. But I mean, I think for me to see somebody of kids because I give kids my life. I don't give a black or white. I coach a kid with everything I have in me. Yeah. And then I see, and I've given it to their children. And to me, I'm like, you got the audacity to go do something like that. You didn't get your way, and this is what you believe. That was a little tough for me as well. I'm sorry, I'm done. I had to get that out.
So Trent, let me ask you this, because you bring up something, and I'm going to go back, and then it's a little harsh, but I'm going to go back a little bit to when Black women worked in the homes of white families. And it's sometimes Black women who have had their own babies had to breastfeed the babies of white women, and their children went without. Correct. And then those same white families that treated them well, that loved them and took them in kind of as family, right? They felt like they talked as if they were family, but then not all, but a lot and majority of them were then going at night, putting hoods on and going out into a rally. And it just, as you said that, it brought me kind of back to kind of some of those things. So my question is here, I understand you're surprised because you dealt directly with the kids and you dealt directly with them. But were you surprised or were you surprised?
I wasn't. Let's just say again, I wouldn't say like so utterly shocked. Oh, I can't believe it, because I knew they had Republican mindsets. Let's put it that way. And there's a difference in a Republican and a Trumper, in my opinion. That's just me.
Very much so.
Yes.
I'm fine with the debate. I'm fine understanding different sides, because that's the only way we move forward. I think we all understand that in our past. But it was just like, I guess it was almost, for lack of a better term, it pissed me off. I'm like, wow, the audacity to even partake of something like this. You know, and I just thought it was disheartening, frustrating, and also, I ain't gonna lie, I mean, I was on full tilt. I'm like, it's a good thing I'm not running to that individual, because they're not going to be ready for what's going to come probably from my lips. And I can say it in a very educated, non-combative way, and you know, and hope you feel froggy. You know, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great point. I don't think society really realizes the box that they have put Black men and women in for centuries. And now you know, one of the things that you read about in The Art of War is you don't fight someone that's scared because they're already scared of you. You go to the people who have no fear. You try to control your domain. And because Black people aren't naturally scared, you know, they try to control us in so many ways, from the mind to the money to our mentals and physicals, that they're no longer being able to do that. So now the only way to get to us is through death and through murder and through genocide, genocidal mindset. And for me, I'm sickened at the point that sometimes I can't tell who's authentic white and who's just authentic people. And what I mean by authentic white, like I want to be able to accept a person for who they are, as they are, in the picture of who they are, white, Asian, whatever. But in doing that, I need to be accepted for who I am, as a Black man that's 6 foot tall, 220 plus pounds, and aggressive, but yet caring, loving, but yet very vocal, and honest, but yet not looked upon as a threat. Right. And here we are in a time in 2021. I'm 46 years old, And in 2021, where we're supposed to be living with the Jetsons, having robot maids walking around the house, cleaning the house for us, having cars and flying in the air, we're supposed to be doing some next level things for our country.
Mm-hmm.
And we are still fighting for me to understand that this white person like me. That's a problem. That's a problem that every time I walk into a store, I have a 15-year-old daughter. Most of you guys, hey, if you saw Queen and Slim, my biggest fear is my daughter being out with a young black man who's now a party and they attack her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like, you know, I can't. And then lastly, to see the amount of footage that the young lady got who got killed for her terrorism, then over what Breonna Taylor got for the murder of Breonna Taylor, got less time on camera than this lady that got killed at the Capitol for her terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I can't.
Linwood, you're not that much younger than us either, Linwood.
There's a couple of things, Sherelle, you made a point, and I just want to touch upon this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because as a child, I didn't go to school in my neighborhood. So one of the ways I got to school every morning was my neighbor used to drive her car to the suburbs where my school was with about 5 or 6 other black ladies. And they were going out to the suburbs to clean the homes of the white people in those neighborhoods. Now, when she pulled up, all of those ladies had to enter the house through the back door. They didn't go up through the front door. That wasn't acceptable. So yes, they may have gone in and they took care of the children. They may have breastfed the children or whatever, but they were never treated as equals. They were never treated with respect. They were the hired help and they had their place. That's the first point. You know, we're talking about double standards. Somebody made a point to me the other day. You remember in the summer or early part of this last 2020 in the spring, before COVID-19 was really rampant, there was a Black Lives Matter protest in Washington, D.C. And there was such a fear and so much rigmarole that they called out the National Guard.
That's right.
And the National Guard guarded the steps of the Capitol 4 deep.
Yep.
To prevent the Black Lives Matter protesters from entering the Capitol.
That's right.
Fast forward to January 6th, when you are there down the street and you've got Chester Cheetah inciting a riot. But they can walk down the street unabated
with guns.
With guns.
Strapped. Yes, strapped.
Brandishing guns and all kinds of things, Molotov cocktails, and walk straight up the steps to the Capitol. And there are police officers moving the fences and motioning them in, as we talked about earlier. So if we don't understand there's a double standard, how many times does this have to smack us in the face for us to understand that we're not judged the same? We don't, someone said earlier, we don't get the same sentences they get. We're not held to the same standards. That white woman who got shot a couple of months earlier, there was a sister in her car who made the wrong turn.
Yeah, in the circle.
In the circle. Yep. They shot her car up 300 times.
Yep. Well, wrong turn.
For a wrong turn. Never got out of the car. Was not armed. She just was in the wrong place at the wrong time and made the wrong turn.
Which is very easy to do in DC.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, this Jim Jones cult like obsession of this individual is scary, because 4 years ago, these people have become more emboldened. They've gotten bolder. Mm-hmm. We always knew. But this was a tipping point, saying, here we are, so to speak, in my opinion, because they wouldn't have tried this 4 years ago. They wouldn't have tried this 8 years ago. Not to this point. I do not believe. I believe that the flames have been taken, and these individuals have become emboldened to believe they can say, do, or whatever they want. They feel like this is, and we know it's driven by fear. We know it's driven by fear, inadequacy. That we know what it's driven by.
Well, you're not guessing, Trent. You're not guessing. There's stats that prove it. White supremacy, hate crimes have skyrocketed up with the president that gives a thumbs up to it. As a matter of fact, they use the president's words very often. I saw a study in high schools. The bullying has gone way up, and they use Trump's words to bully minorities. Trump's going to get rid of your butt. Trump's going to kick you back. Trump's going to do this. Well, because Trump's my president, I can do that. So they have been emboldened. What this man has done was he made decency not matter. You can be ugly. And I think that's the worst legacy of the Trump's presidency. It has taught these children that lie and get promoted. You could be the worst liar and you could become the president. You could have no morals. You could care about nobody. You could insult other adults. If our children behave the way he does, we would punish our children. So, but what the example is, because that's why I'm so happy to have a president that I could be proud of again. I'm not proud of this man. I haven't been proud of him. I don't even like him. I despise him. But the children, they have eyes, they have ears, they can see. And what they've learned is you could be the lowest, most debased. You don't have to have a good vocabulary. You don't have to read. You can get over. That's the worst legacy, I believe, of him.
Yeah. I tried to give him, and I don't want to make this conversation about him because it's the voices of the Black man, but this is where we are. This is where our voices is absolutely needed. There's an adage that says you can't be what you've never seen. And up to 2016, we had never seen a businessman as the president. And I think in 2016, when everybody was looking for that change, when everybody was looking to make a difference and change the way things were going in Washington, that was a novel ideal. It was somebody who was not of Washington, someone who was not part of the establishment. So a lot of people got behind that idea of that this person, because he was not this, this, and this, was going to make a difference. But no one went to really check the record of that person. And, they say if you allow a person to show themselves to you, they will. And that's what he systematically did for the last 4 years. And for some people, they drink the Kool-Aid, because here's a person who has, even though he's what he's considered an elite businessman, he's filed bankruptcy multiple times, but he's still an elite businessman. Even though he didn't get the best grades at all, he's still the president of the United States. Even though he calls himself a self-made man, we know that money was inherited and given to him. So people see that, okay, I can have bad grades, I can file bankruptcy, I can be a self-made man, and then I can grow up to be president. And oh, by the way, there's somebody back in there that looks like me again. So now it just gave all these people license and privilege to start poking their chest out and saying that what they were entitled to, and saying the things that they were a little, at least hesitant to say before, because
overtly
of the climate that they lived in. But now, when you see somebody who just speaks off the cuff and slurs and espouses craziness from day one, he looks like me. He talks like me. I can get behind him. And then there's this tidal wave of all this negativity and all this unrest that just kept crescendoing like a ripple, like a wave, into an ocean, into where we have right now. But it all started because people were looking for something different.
Well, you know, I know what you're saying. It's just started, but think about this, and I know we got to move on. Did it just start?
No.
It didn't.
No.
Because they've been building militias for years. They've been arming themselves covertly for years, looking for the right platform and the right opportunity
That's
to
right.
show themselves. And they came to the Capitol thinking that he was supporting them and he was going to join in on what they were doing. They're right now, and I heard it today, many of them that are being arrested, their stance of defense is,
Toronto
I just did what my president told me to do.
Yep.
Mhm.
Following orders.
My commander in chief.
Military. Okay. A lot of guys in the military, when you have these problems militaristically in other countries, their first line of defense is, I'm just following orders. And that's what you heard. I heard that at least 10 times today, male and female. I was just doing what my president told me to do.
So let me ask you this, because you bring up several good points, and I'm going to try to ask these questions. We'll probably have to go back into some of the conversation and come back because I don't want to ask 5 questions at one time. So the first question I have is, what's the responsibility as a leader? Just because you all are leaders in your own given right, what's the responsibility in your mind as a leader, period?
Well,
Go
ahead, Trent. You can.
No, I'll wait. Seriously.
Well, as a leader, it is our responsibility to create an environment. And that's one of the biggest problems that Donald Trump has. He's not a leader. He is a self-made bully. But as a leader, it's your responsibility to create an environment that allows everyone to achieve the best possible thing that they can. Understanding that there are limitations on everything. But leadership is blind to personal agendas. Leadership is not something that allows one person to rise at the expense of another. There is parity. There is equalization. And even if you can't perfectly get there, you try to set the stage and develop the mindset of the people that you lead by your actions. If you are going to expect something from someone else, you have to first lead by example. And we don't have that example currently in the White House. We don't have that example, not just in the White House. You don't have that example in many of the members of the House of Representatives, in the state, in the Senate. And let's dial it back. You know, a lot of people say, well, I'm not voting because my vote doesn't matter in the national elections. Well, people need to understand it. Your vote matters in your community. Your vote matters in your neighborhood. Your vote matters in your state. Why? Because these are people that are creating the stage, the mindset, or the environment that is going to be what you want it to be at the end. They are preparing the road for you to travel down. And if they don't have the right mindset, or you don't have the right leaders in those places, you're going to have a situation very similar to what we have right now, because we don't just have a problem in the White House. We've got governors, we've got mayors, we've got senators, we've got congressmen that all were part of what happened on January 6th. They just haven't been brought to the forefront or taken to task in total yet. So leadership is all about creating that environment from the ground up, from the top down, both directions, setting a goal to allow people to achieve greatness, but not at the expense of each other.
Go ahead, Ulrich. You haven't heard Ulrich in a while. So Ulrich, it's your turn.
Now, leadership is something that, is very dear to my heart. And Velton, I mean, you said it, and I'm just going to reiterate it. I think sports is a great analogy. I was talking to you guys probably know Jay Graves. He was on Voice of a Black Man before, and we were talking about And now this is not the same, right? But at one time, as a sports team or a military unit, we have a mission. And our mission is to accomplish our goals. And regardless of how we look, what we think, if we're on that sports field together, man, we're going to do everything we can do together to win. It doesn't matter what we look like and who we are. Mm-hmm. And to me, the leader of that team illustrates significantly, hey, what we need to do and what we need to be. What we need to be. And regardless, right, you may have a fifth string person on your team, and you got to treat that person and have them on your side regardless, because you're going to need them to do their part to make sure you're successful. Mm-hmm. When we're talking about leadership in a nutshell, I think sports is the greatest comparison to, hey, what a leader does and is supposed to do. You have a mission, you have a bunch of different people, and they're all working toward one goal together. Now, that doesn't happen all the time, but on a successful team, and that's what happens. And I think as the United States of America, right, our team is made up of a lot of different people, but our team really doesn't know the mission. So we have people going in all different directions because of our leader at this time.
Avoided leadership. Linwood, go ahead, man.
So what's the responsibility as a leader now was the question, right? And I think first thing that we have to do is you're going to have to get back to having compassion. The one thing that this country has had a void of was compassion of one's story, compassion of one's situation, and really helping to get back. And it's not, I want to call it what it is, to get back the love again. Growing up in the 80s, if I like to buy the world a Coke, a place where we could all be safe and hope and harmony. You ain't so
young, man.
He
was about to sing it.
I ain't gonna sing it, but what happened to that? What happened to that time where it was okay to just to be loved and to be cool and to bring everyone in? So compassion. The second thing is get back to some grassroots of just don't judge the situation. Judge the progress. Where are we going? We sometimes seek perfection in the moment and lose sight of the progress. Unfortunately, what has been digressing over the last 4 years has been the progress. We've taken steps backwards. So we've got to push the forward with progression. And lastly, and this is something that I'm very passionate about, is each one teach one. A part of a great leader is I have a responsibility to tell somebody else in my community not only the power of their Blackness, but the power of their greatness beyond the status quo. And where we continue to lose some of our children to society's judgments is because they have allowed wedges to be placed into our communities based upon economics. And what it shouldn't have been, because when I grew up, it didn't regardless of economics, we were Black people. We came together, we fellowship, we thrived, we pushed, we prodded, we got it done together, and we did not leave one child behind, but it was each one teach one. I needed to teach my sister how to be a strong Black woman, and she's going to teach her children, blah, 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 blah. And somewhere along the lines, leadership has stopped doing that. And I think that we got to get back to that.
Trent, come on, Trent.
Well, you sort of took out. Being a coach and being that I deal with youth every day. I mean, I work in the school system as an admin, AD, and I coach 3 sports. And so leadership, when we go back to our responsibility of leadership, I take it very seriously, because everything I do, what comes out of my mouth, how I conduct myself is an example for not just my Black young athletes, but my white ones, because I'm trying to change even their perception, because I'm hopeful that if I've shown the child the love, as you talk about, get back to the love, I give them that leadership. I exemplify, I handle myself in the proper way. I raise them up. I treat the 5th string just as important as I do the 1st string. I always have. I've always said, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and we raise them up. And maybe the change starts when that child that I've coached goes home and his dad says something off the wall, and he's like, whoa, Dad. No, that's not
I love it.
Everybody's not like that. You got to stop that.
Right.
You know, why embolden them to maybe they start taking a stand. And for our Black young men, they see us and they see, you know, men like us, and they said, you know what, I can be a life coach. I can grow up to be a financial analyst. I can grow up to be these things. We are what they're looking at, because we know in our homes we don't see enough of it all the time. And we have to be, you know, we have to be quite honest with that. But as far as leadership, you know, mine is just trying to be an exemplary individual, not perfect, because Lord knows none of us are perfect, but be one who's caring, gives our love, and shows empathy, but also toughness, and to try to raise up the youth, because that's my passion. That's where I'm at. Love it, and you know, I know it's a great responsibility, but this is a teaching moment, and it has been for some of my kids in football, some of the white kids.
Amen. So, come on, Terrence.
Well, you know, before we can say what the responsibility of a leader is, I think we have to understand the definition of a leader. And we haven't had the definition of a leader in the past 4 years. We've had the definition of a monarch. See, monarchs rule, leaders serve. And then that's an important distinction. The person who was elected to lead thought that he was selected to rule. And that's how he went about his business for the last 4 years, trying to be a ruler with a crown instead of a leader with an air of service. And when you decide that you're going to serve the people that you've been elected to lead, putting their best interests first and foremost, not your own, that's when you become an effective leader. That's when, because out of a level of service, you're going to teach. Out of a level of service, you're going to love. Out of level of service, you're going to honor and respect. Out of a level of service, you're going to put things in place that are going to be of service to the people that you've been entrusted with the responsibility of leading. So we've got to get back to the point of understanding what the true definition of leadership is before we can start talking about what the responsibilities of that leader should be. Because when you learn the reason why you're leading, then you're also going to embrace the responsibility of that leadership role. And so that's what I think our next leader, and not just the leader that's on 1600 Black Lives Matter Avenue, but the leader in your home, the leader on your block club, the leader in your city council, the leader in your state government, the leader in your church, every leader, because everybody watched what this leader did. And there's going to be some copycats. There always are.
Sure. Absolutely.
So we've got to make sure that there are true leaders that are ready to step up into that responsibility role to serve the masses and to also squash those copycats that have a desire to come and take up the mantle and put on their own crown moving forward.
All right, Brian, come on, Brian.
It's my turn. My turn.
Here we go.
Set them up. We set them up.
Here we go. I'm going to keep it going so that everyone is heard tonight, because we do have some amazing minds here, some amazing thought leaders, and you guys all gave fantastic answers. I liked a lot of them. I think there is a responsibility for leaders. First thing, the leader's responsibility is to set a good example. And he does that with discipline and consistency, doing what he's supposed to do when he's supposed to do it, with or without supervision. And consistency. Can someone look at that person and say, or have a really good idea what this person would or would not do? That only happens when you've been consistent in your actions. But I do believe leaders have a responsibility right now to be very well informed, because people are going to ask you questions. And you don't have to say, follow me, I'm your leader. Okay. You don't never have to say that. The leader will be the obvious one. That's the one that everyone looks at when something comes down. They look at that person to see how that person, because that person is going to direct them on how they should behave. So that's what the leadership is. And I do believe all of the 6 of us in here are leaders. Welcome back, Sherelle.
Hey, go ahead and finish. I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay. Well, I wanted to finish that point right there, but I do believe that as leaders, we do have responsibility right now. We do not get to sit on the sidelines in this because you have to speak up right now. You cannot be quiet, and events like this are very important. In your circle right now, there is somebody looking at you to see how you're responding to this. I promise you that's the case.
Absolutely.
And you have to respond. Now, the problem is when the leaders don't respond or they try not to say something, what happens is people tend to finish the story on their own because grown people can't stand stories not finished. So, and they can guess incorrectly. So leaders, my brothers, you have got to speak up so that you're heard often.
Absolutely. And I just want to throw this in on that topic because Velton and I, we both know a renowned speaker, Dr. George C. Frazier.
I know him too. That's my boy.
Yes, he always speaks of you have to be a leader of one before you can be a leader of many. And I dare say the situation got to the situation that we've seen it go to over these last 4 years is because a lot of people didn't be the leader of their one before they started following the supposed leader of many. See, it's really easy to imitate somebody else. It's hard to stand on your own 2 feet. It's hard to be accountable to yourself as well as being accountable to everyone else. And so if you haven't learned how to be a leader in your own body, a leader in your own mind, a leader in your own skin, then you're going to follow whatever leader attracts your eye, attracts your mind, and attracts your heart. So as a responsibility of us as leaders now is to make sure that we're teaching everybody that we come in contact how to be their own leader first. So then they'll learn how to be a servant leader for everyone else.
Thank you, gentlemen, for that great insight on leadership. Now, I want to take it further. Like I said, I was going to go back a little bit in some of the comments that you guys had. And that was, you talked about there being 2 different United States of America, a white America and a Black or minority America. I want to ask the question of, inside of that statement, how does privilege play a part, and what does privilege mean when you speak of privilege?
Well,
wow. How better can it play out than what we just seen? And we touched on this about what happened during the peaceful demonstrations of Black Lives Matter versus what we just saw on January 6th. There was a similarity in voice, but a definite difference in action, not just action by the protesters, but how the protesters were received. That showed you that there is a difference in privilege versus the unprivileged. And I know all my brothers have felt the same way, and a lot of sisters feel this way. You walk into a department store dressed down. Now, if you're dressed in a suit and you're by yourself and you're just walking around, you don't attract as much attention. But dressed down or walk in there with a group of your friends, all of a sudden, all eyes and all attention are on you, not because there is a feeling of, can I help you? Can I serve you? But there's fear. There's apprehension. There's pullback. There's the one thing, and we didn't talk about this in the last segment, that leadership is responsible for. There's no trust. You're not trusted, or they don't feel as though you are trustworthy. You could be very trustworthy, but they don't trust you. And so when you don't trust someone, you hold them to a different standard, whether they've earned the trust or not. But because they look different, they talk different, they act different, they worship different, or they're just different than who you are, there's this disconnect. So now there's two standards or three standards of the way they're being treated. And that's really what privilege is all about. They're treated here and everybody else is treated here.
I think we should have gone. Let me ask you this. We talk about privilege and I get that, but we all are seasoned, somewhat older, 40s, 50s, 60-year-old Black men. This isn't the first time we haven't felt like that we know that there's been an obvious separation. I mean, I grew up in Kentucky. I already knew that there was going to be things I had to fight harder, that I had to be better because I wasn't going to be looked upon the same level. And I would dare to say that same kind of lesson had probably hit each and every one of you, which is why you hit it so hard to go to where you are now. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I understand there is the privilege. Don't get me wrong. We know there's obviously, without just keep harping on what happened on the 6th, because I don't want to give him more power than he deserves.
Right.
So that situation, that situation happened. But we've been battling privilege since our inception. I mean, since we've been here, and it's allowed us to work. It's compelled us to work harder, to learn more, to just to fight, just to get, even ground, if you will, But we're barrier breakers. We've broken barriers. Even being here right now, we've broken barriers. What we got to do is reach back and teach these young boys how to break barriers of their own, how to not let this situation that did occur. Be mindful. Don't get me wrong. Exercise your Second Amendment and all that good stuff, because I know I do. So, but be mindful of what we're dealing with. But also, we got to raise up these young brothers and teach them how to, and these youth, and teach them how to fight and close that gap of privilege. You can't change what people see. You can't change where they come from. They're going to be what they're going to be. But we don't have to, I'm not going to give it your privilege. You know what? I live right next door to you now. I fought for it, so that's sort of, I don't know if I went off topic, and if I did, I apologize, but I was.
You're fine. You're fine.
Absolutely.
We've always had to play catch up. We played since we came into this world with this beautiful array of skin that we had. That's been our battle. So.
Yeah, I think when you think about privilege in our country, I mean, I think it goes back a little deeper than just January the 6th, as everybody has said. I think the way that we handle privilege is the issue. Example being this. You guys said it, just the way that you're perceived, where people see you when you have a suit on, and they give you a privilege over another African-American male that has sweatpants and a hoodie on. Mm-hmm. They give you that privilege. And I think it's embedded in us as human beings to not know how to handle that privilege. And I think in our country right now, based on what people are seeing and not taking the time to get to know people and having been exposed to people that don't look like them, that is the issue. We don't know how to handle privilege, whether it's white privilege, whether it's privilege amongst, Black males all in the same group, and it's some police officers, and one of those Black males has a suit on, and the other three just got finished playing a game of basketball. I mean, it's a privilege that we all need to do a better job of understanding and realizing, hey, not just by what we're seeing, but actually who someone actually is. And that's the thing that's we don't have the time. We're not taking the time to do that.
Let me ask you this, Ulrich, before I go. I know we still got Terrence Linwood and Brian to answer the question, but you brought up white privilege. What's the difference in white privilege? Isn't it just privilege?
I think it goes back to what we've been talking about. It's just a different set of standards, right? That same example I gave you, if 3 white men walk in a place and just finished playing basketball, and I have on a suit, and they probably they're gonna receive a privilege based on who that owner is of that store that I won't receive.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen.
And that's fact. That's not like a make believe. That's
fact.
That's fact. Like that's
fact. Bottom line.
I've went through, and I'm sure each of these men have went through as well.
Yeah, and I asked that question because I know that we have some viewers that are of a different race that are trying to understand and trying to lean in and to understand when you say you have a privilege that I don't have, or there's white privilege versus just, you know, me having a privilege of being able to do something, understanding that, right? And really understanding what that means or how that sits. I'll go ahead, Terrence. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great point. And I think I'll just speak for myself. I get really stuck on the word privilege because it's just the way it's used these days is too closely related to the word entitlement. And that kind of sticks in my craw. And, you know, I'm not just going to come from the black man perspective talking about the other race, because some of our color ain't our kind either in these conversations. There was some of our color that's on the screen that was there on January 6th. How they didn't make it on camera when in every other situation, when every other instance of unrest, they front and center. I don't know, but that's for another conversation. I know personally that there were some that were there.
Me too.
But back to privilege and entitlement. When you have a sense of entitlement, it's that sense that you're supposed to have it. I was born with it. It's my right. And then people look at privilege like it's a right, and privilege is a gift. And the thing about privilege, is a gift for everybody. It's not just a gift because you're white and you don't get the gift because you're black or brown or another minority or a illegal alien or whatever that is. Privilege is something that in that Constitution that we heard spreading all over these last couple of weeks, privilege is in the Constitution, which means it is a privilege for each and every American under the Constitution. The problem is with the perception. People don't perceive that what is a privilege to them should also be a privilege for everyone else. Because if they perceived it that way, then that wouldn't elevate them to the level of entitlement, which is what they really want to be seen as. I'm entitled, not privileged. I'm entitled. And if I let you have this same entitlement, then you become privileged. And that's the problem. It's all a perception. And we've got to do a better job of getting on the same perception page. And I may never see this in my lifetime. You know, we just kidded in the private chat about how old each and every one of us is. I may not see that fantasy of us all being on the same level of perception and understanding of each other. But that's still my hope. That was my hope back in 2008 when I went to the first inauguration of the president number 44, and I saw all the military on the steps of the Capitol and on all the museums and all across the Lincoln Memorial, the same amount of military because they were afraid of what he was going to do. And now we come 12 years later and we've got that same amount of people, not because of what they were afraid of what somebody was going to do, but because of what someone actually did. It's that perception that needs to be changed. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have these same issues, just with different people.
I don't know, man. I think you're thinking about a different kind of privilege than what I'm thinking of. You know, I'm thinking of white privilege. And white people in America do enjoy certain freedoms and rights that black people do not.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
They do. They get to observe certain freedoms and rights. Wanda Sykes has a funny skit where she goes into a grocery store with her white girlfriend. Her white girlfriend goes to the first cooler, takes out a bottle of water, opens it up immediately and starts drinking it. Okay. Really? You didn't pay for that yet? You just gonna start drinking it right here in front of the stove? I'm thirsty. Okay. And she goes out and leaves the store and she goes, "Hey, Wanda, did you pay for this?" "No, I didn't. And don't say my name." Because no one would have ever suspected her of not have paying for that. Okay. I could not get away with that. White privilege to me, it hurts me on a deep level. It hurts my soul. Okay. White privilege. Tamir Rice can be killed within 2 seconds of the police showing up because Tamir Rice is a 12-year-old black kid, okay, with a toy gun. Trayvon Martin can get hunted down while walking through. When we see all of these cases, Breonna was in bed. Ahmaud Arbery was jogging. Little things like that where white people can do willy-nilly, but we can't. Okay, when we watch these court shows, when we see these court cases, and we see them getting off, I saw a young white man rape a woman behind a trash can, and the judge let him off because going to jail would be detrimental to his future. Okay, a black man do the same thing. He got 16 years. Okay, I saw a white woman shoot a man. Okay, and get out of jail in a year. I saw a black woman shoot a warning shot in the air, and she ends up in jail for 20 years. Okay, so we have different things. The white privilege I'm talking about are the things that they can do and get away with that we cannot do and get away with. And there is entitlement because, especially when they're older, because they can remember when it was easier for them. They can remember where every black person had to kowtow, or they had to go to the back of the bus, or they had to cross the street. They can remember those things. So I'm thinking of a different kind of privilege. It hurts my feelings a lot. And every time I see examples, and there are a lot of them, examples of where, if that were me, I've been pulled by the police just because I had on a shirt and a tie and a nice car. Okay, they couldn't possibly have observed me doing anything. I've been pulled by police several times because I had a nice car. Okay, what for? They don't pull them over for a nice car. How could he possibly have a nice car? He's black. Okay, let's harass him. I've gone to speaking engagements, and I had my son with me at the time. He was 11. He's now 17. I'm the featured speaker there. I pulled onto the country club grounds. I'm pulling onto the grounds. As soon as I get on the grounds, a cop car whips behind me, blue lights me. For what? I hadn't done anything. Okay. And I have to stand there in the car, and the cop comes up and harassing me. "What are you doing up here?" "I'm speaking at this event." "Does anybody here know that you're coming?" "What are you talking about?" So I got my son in the car with me. And the only reason I got out of this, I had to call the event while the cop was playing with me and have one of their good old boys come down to where I was and talk to the sheriff to get me off. So I have enough experiences of privilege, okay, that hurts my feelings a lot.
So you mentioned something, right? With the two differences of U.S. black versus white, privilege, entitlement, whatever the case may be. I'll give you what I see. All right. The definition of white privilege, and whatever else, however you want to define it. There are two different Americas. The first one I'm gonna give you is on January 6, 2021. There was a Confederate flag inside the U.S. Capitol.
Exactly.
During the Civil War, the most heinous war of American history, the Confederate flag never made it to those hallowed grounds. Fast forward, there is a black couple, there is a white couple living here in Durham, North Carolina that has two black kids whom they've adopted. On the front of their house, they have Black Lives Matter signs in their house. 7 times their house has been vandalized and things have been broken and stolen. The signs have been torn down. The last time, they literally attached the signs to their front post on their house, where there were the little designer post on the front of the house. They caught the person on camera, white man, walking up with matches and clippers to clip off their signs and to rip them off, pulling the post off of this man's house.
He should go to jail.
He should go to jail. Privilege. Never, ever has he made it to court, nor will he become a victim of a loaded system against you. Black man gets pulled over for driving with license suspended or with a license being overdue and can be arrested on spot. White man gets pulled over. A black man, the first thing we're taught when we get pulled over, put your hands on the dashboard, turn the keys off, put one out the window. We have to talk. We're contorting. We're not being natural. A white person gets pulled over and they can yell and cuss the cop out with no forgiveness. And they won't get anything but a ticket if they get that. Privilege. Privilege is when I interview for a job that I am beyond qualified for, and I should have a very good opportunity at getting this job. But a young man who does not look like me, who is white, whose uncle or daddy knew somebody, mama knew somebody who did not have the same qualifications as I, nor the time or the experience, got the job before me and they paid him more money. That didn't happen to me once in corporate America. That's happened to me multiple times. And every time that I'm told when I speak about my ability to be promotable, I'm told I'm too aggressive. Black people are looked upon as aggressive when we talk about our truth.
Oh yes. You know,
it's the time is always right to do what is right.
You
the
know,
time is always right to do what is right. If we want change, privilege is the time is if you want to equal the playing field, take the privilege word and make it it needs to be spoken in every community to every white person for them to understand that no longer can they have the upper hand based upon their color.
You know, it's interesting because you're talking about corporate America, and I know each of us has had a stint there at some point in time. And I'll never forget this, and I've heard it more than once. And it always shocked me because one of my bosses, I had to ask him because he made a comment, and I asked him, well, how many Black people do you know? Because we were having a conversation, and this is how he didn't think there was anything wrong with the statement. He said, you know, Velton, you're not like most Black people.
Oh.
Right.
Excuse me? He said, well, you're not like most Black people. I said, well, what do you mean by that? How many Black people do you know? Because you really don't even know me.
Right.
You know what I allow you to see in corporate America. But that's not truly who I am.
You know, Velton, it's a shame that in corporate America, if you're succeeding, you're looked upon as an Uncle Tom amongst your own people.
Yes, you are.
So if you speak with any level of articulation, sometimes our people hold us accountable to that because of our complexion or articulation. But then you have to fight the battle of being the affirmative action friend. Like, I like white people. I'm not gonna put all of those that did the terrorism in the same lump as all white people because that is disrespectful to them. I mean, Terrence, you said it best. There's some of us who we ain't too proud of either.
Absolutely.
Flavor Flav, I do from the 80s, but I ain't too proud of Flavor Flav's decisions.
Right.
And they just put them on TV.
Hey, Pookie and Ray Ray down the street.
We all have people that we're not proud of in our communities. But what I don't understand that pains me is just the fact that I am some white people's affirmative action friend. And I told my wife, I'm good with that. I'm good with knowing that, hey, y'all know Wood? That's my Black friend. Like, you know, like that's how they want to see it. And the world shouldn't be that way. Why can't I just be your friend?
Yeah.
And that's the problem that I have. That's where the white privilege and the privilege comes from. And all this thing is because we've already put a line in the sand about what color means. You know, hey, you want to see some things change? Change Black Friday to White Friday and see how much you sell.
Absolutely. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about perception. See, when you break it down to its lowest common denominator, it ain't the word privilege, it's how people perceive. You go way back in the day. Brian, you were talking about going back to how those other people used to be able to do this and have this and privilege, but it was all because they were perceived to be better than us, and they carried that perception and they taught that perception to their kids, and then their kids taught it to their kids, and that we are here at this whole day. But if we just took a second to just change the narrative of the perception, if we did the Linwood where, hey, I'm not your black friend, I'm not your affirmative action friend, I'm your friend, but if you keep calling me black in affirmative action, we ain't gonna be friends for long. You got to change the perception. Now, I got glasses on, but they ain't rose colored. I've had the same situations that each and every one of you guys have talked about in some shape, form, or fashion. And I live in a red state, reddest state I have ever lived in. I see it each and every day. There are people to this day that are still standing out on the street corner waving their Trump flag 2020, and it's 2021. That's the thing that's tripping me out. It's over. But we still, each and every one of us, can change that perception of one other person. I happen to be black, but I have the same rights, I have the same privileges, I have the same hurts, I have the same causes that you have. And once you recognize that there's more that we have in common than we have as differences, that's when it's going to make a difference. And that's my charge as a leader, to keep putting that out there, despite all the other people that want to continue to think like it's the 40s, the 50s, and even the 60s. We're not going to change them.
And we can't allow that. I mean, again, I was in the corporate America, one of the first black VPs. I did all that. Mm-hmm. I will say, but now in the role that I've been placed in now is more important to me, as you said, to try to tear down some of these things, because I'm building up these men. Because when I have these guys on the football field, I don't have blacks over here and whites over here. The white is not automatically my quarterback. Right. I'm just keeping it real. Mm-hmm. We coach them. We get dirty together. We grind together. We sweat together. And I'm hoping, and maybe, again, no rose-colored glasses. I understand what I'm around. I'm in a predominantly white community. I understand that. Work at a mixed school, but the school is in a white community. Mm-hmm. Of which I live in this community and have for the last 20 years. So imagine, I used to get followed home every day. Brian, you talked about that. I used to get followed when I was building my house here in Wakefield. They followed me every day until I got out and had to remind this cat. Well, not remind him, I had to let him know, hey man, I'm former law enforcement in Florida. Now, look, I know you're not going to harass me. So I understand that. So now I try to take that fire and that energy. I know, because I know it. We know it exists. We know there's the privilege. We know there's the racial disharmony. We know all these things exist. But I'm not going to let it. My charge is I'm going to stay with these young people, male and female, white and black. I mean, because understand this has a lot of different things for me. My son in the military is married to a white. My daughter-in-law's white. So she was right there watching this too, and she was just teared up, like she didn't know what to say. She felt awkward. You could feel the awkwardness in the room just because it was.
She was probably embarrassed.
And she was embarrassed. And I had to reassure her, listen, hey, you are a Wilson woman now. These are things that have happened. These are things that continue to happen. Mm-hmm. Now, just make sure you stay on the right side of this. But I mean, it's so important. Stay woke. My job as a coach and a mentor right now, working at the school, is so important for me to try. And because my wife gets really upset about some of these things, and my thing is, I said, sweetie, we grew up in this. I try not to become too jaded, because I can't heal if I'm jaded. I can't heal the next generation if I'm jaded. I can't coach you. That made me stupid or unaware. I just have to try to compartmentalize and say, okay, if I see something, obviously I'm gonna say so. I'm like you. I'm a strong personality. I'm a big brother, and I've been called angry, and I'll say I have mismanaged passion. So it's just, you call it what you want. So, but I mean, we're trying in the leadership role. I'm trying to bridge and try to tear it out. There is privilege. I mean, you can look at I'll be honest with you. You can look at my sons and say they're privileged. My kids have lived very well.
Mm-hmm.
My kids have done well. They graduated from Butler University, got masters from A&T. I mean, they've done well. Lived their dream because the mom and I worked our butts off in spite of everything to fight through this ceiling that they try to put on us. And I'm not going to let what has happened push me down. If anything, it's going to make me more determined to keep pulling people up and bringing people up and bridging some of this ignorance that we deal with.
So let me ask you this, and I'm gonna send it to you, Ulrich, first on this one because of what you guys are talking about. It's a question that I posed to the gentleman in part one. So, as African American, Black men, whatever you want to call it, depending on the day, we're African American. Depending on the next day, we're Black. However you go, and it used to be a time where we were Negro, and that was acceptable, and so I'm just covering the gamut here. All right, so we're all feeling comfortable. But seriously, is it to fight for freedom, or is it to fight from freedom?
Wow.
Answer that. Ask me that question again. That was deep. I need to digest that real quick.
Okay, digest it. Is it to fight for freedom, or is it to fight from freedom? And I'll give you the example that I gave the gentleman in part one. And I'm a Christian, and from a Christian standpoint, that when I gave my life to Jesus, I had victory, right? And so I no longer fight for that victory. I'm fighting from the victory that I have. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. And so in our fight for equality and justice and equity, and to be seen as human and not subpar or subhuman or anything else that we may be called, or especially our Black men, is it to fight for freedom or from freedom? Or is there something that's in between?
That's good.
Yeah, that's good. I'll address the question as to, I guess, my mindset and how I operate and with, my family. Speaking with my parents when the riots were taking place over the summer, and just talking to them about, hey, where they were and how they had to overcome certain things, where they had to go into the back of a specific store, how they were not able to buy gas at certain stores. It was a Black store in our community. And, fast forwarded to 2021, although everything is not perfect in our society, in our community, locally, regionally, statewide, and nationally, I feel that I am an American that is Black, and that I am in a place that I do have the opportunity to on a daily basis to make a choice and to make a decision to live life better than I did the day before.
Thank you.
I would say fighting from the way you asked the question, because of the freedom, I'm going to make my voice heard. Because of the freedom, I'm going to do the things that I'm just as equal as anyone else. I have every opportunity anyone else has, and you're not taking that from me. We're not from you're not going to slap. You're not going to pull out a whip and call me boy and put some chains on me. I mean, you could try, but it's going to be a long night for you. We're not even. We're different. So I'm in a position, a place of power because we do have that freedom. Do we have to fight more? Hey, that may be, maybe so, but we are free. We are fighting for equality. We are fighting for justice, but of a place of understanding that it's deserved too. We've earned this. We've worked for this. So I don't think I'm fighting for me personally. I'm just speaking for Trent. I don't feel like I'm fighting for freedom. I feel like I'm fighting from a place of power. I personally believe I'm fighting from a place of power because I know the influence that I have on the influence that I have, and I've been able to see it manifest in front of me. So.
Before the other gentleman answer, let me just ask this question to Ulrich and Trent as you go along. Is that a mental state or is that something else as you talk about that place of freedom?
Mine, it probably is a mental. I've always been a fighter. And I've always even told we were telling my mom, I said, you know, you all had to accept things that my generation doesn't have to. You know, as I've told people, I was looking for a job when I took yours. I'm not fearful of a job. I'm not fearful of you. I have rights. I have house. For me, that's sort of my perspective on it. You know,
for me too, it's definitely mental. I mean, like I said, you have a choice every day on how you operate, what you do in life, how you things are going to happen, right? And I feel like in this life that it's how you respond to those things that happen, right? And I'm a positive person. That hey, like we said, I don't have rose-colored glasses on. I understand what's going on around me, but that mindset that I have is that hey, whatever I want to achieve, hey, as long as I, stick to my morals, like I'll get it. I might have to fight a little bit longer. I might have to go. I wasn't born rounding third base. I was born in the dugout, but we're gonna meet at home plate.
That's right. No, that's good. That's good.
That's good.
I like that one, man.
Can you say that again? Say that one more time.
We got to write that down. We're not recording it.
I need
No, it's I was not born rounding third base. I was born in the dugout, but we're gonna meet at home plate.
One way or another.
I love it.
One way or another.
I like that.
I'm gonna open the floor to everyone else to answer the question about fighting for freedom or from freedom.
I think I'm definitely fighting for freedom. I basically haven't had corporate work since 1996, and I'm fighting to be free, to be the fullest expression of Brian. I'm fighting daily to keep my company going, to keep my company prosperous, to keep my clients happy, so that I can stay free to be me, which is really all I've ever wanted to be, was free to be the very special version of me. So I'm fighting for. That's why I'm willing to take on coaching and hire coaching and training programs, willing to be innovative, willing to try, because I want to stay free. I don't want to have to go back. My wife and I, we went to an outdoor pavilion and we're eating food at a nice place. And the place was crowded. So, but we had a table with 5 chairs, and it was only us 2. Okay, a round table with 5 chairs, only us 2. There was 3 people needing a table. So we said, sure, have a seat with us. And all 3 of them were psychiatrists. Okay, and they worked for a psychiatry company. They were psychiatrists, but it was corporate. And the conversations they were having was blowing my mind. They were saying things like, well, I told my supervisor that, or that time I got rolled up that. Okay, so to me, even though they have good jobs, they're not free, because they still have someone over them that can write them up or can approve or not approve their vacation time. I submitted to have some time off. Now, I don't knock corporate jobs at all. I think people got to do what they got to do to maintain their stuff. But I'm personally fighting for my rights and my ability to become free and to stay free as me.
And Brian, let me ask you this question, Brian, since I have you. What is freedom to you?
That's just it. The freedom to me is the ability to be the best version of myself, whatever I decide to in that moment. The ability to do my business this way or that way, to go here or there, and have the means to do it. Have the money to be able to do it. I'm taking a trip this weekend. On Thursday, we're going on vacation because I have the means to do it. So having the means, having the freedom to earn more, do more, stretch more. That's what freedom is to me.
Thank you.
As I listen to that and I listen to the answers, I want to say I am fighting from a position of freedom for freedom. And I say that because some of us in our community have had a few more privileges than others. We've had the ability to either be CEOs of our own companies, entrepreneurs, or decent jobs in corporate America. But our community expands beyond those of us or the privileged few. We have a lot of brothers and sisters that are in a position that they were not as fortunate as we are. And they are fighting from a position for their freedom. And as a leader, as someone who's had an opportunity that they may have not had, I still think I have an obligation to reach back and to somehow, as you've heard it say, each one teach one or each one reach one, and try to help pull us as a people forward so that there is more opportunity, there is more freedom, there is more chance for us to right the wrongs of the past. Now, the only reason that I have this ability to do that is because I'm fighting from a position of freedom, being the CEO of my own company, having my own resources, being able to make those tough decisions, like Brian said, without the repercussions or ramifications being so strong that they unseat me from where I am. So I don't take that obligation or that responsibility lightly, but I welcome the opportunity to continue to make a change because I am moving from a position of freedom, which came about in 2008, and it's 2021, and we are just picking up steam. And we know in my organization, and I tell myself this every day, my best is yet to come.
Wonderful. I hear that. I like that. My best is yet to come every day.
Absolutely.
Every day. Which means that there's improvement that happens every day. I love that. I absolutely love that. All right, good sirs.
I think I'm gonna go the way Trent said, because of freedom, and not from freedom. But if we're going to use the statement the way you said it, I'm fighting from freedom because I have a freedom mentality. And, just like the song says, when you free your mind, the rest will follow. And for a lot of us, we haven't taken on that freedom mentality. That's why we continue to fight for it, because we haven't made the decision that that's what we were going to be. And the world doesn't change around you because you decide to have a freedom mentality, but the world changes inside of you because you take on that freedom mentality. And when you take on that freedom mentality, you walk a little different. When you take on that freedom mentality, you talk a little different. When you take on that freedom mentality, you see the world a little bit different. And then for me, and I can only speak for me, that gives me the energy to want to fight to maintain the feeling of that freedom mentality that I have. Because every time I think from a standpoint of freedom, then things that come with a freedom lifestyle comes my way. But anytime I start thinking that I'm in servitude or that I'm beholden to somebody else, then I get weighed down and I get bogged down by life and all its different entities. And that's not a good feeling for me. So for me, I fight from freedom because I already believe I'm free. Mm-hmm. And so I go about doing the things and having the things and being the person that a free mentality allows you to do. So that's how I think about it.
That's good.
I really don't have a lot to add. That's going to be philosophical beyond the quality information that was shared. I like to lead with 3 points. Scripturally, I can say this, that the Bible says, for whom the Son sets free is free indeed. And I look at it from the perspective of Harriet Tubman, not only as a historian about reading her story and seeing the story, but in watching the movie, you got to really chance to see a young lady that fought for freedom. But yet she fought for freedom while being free. Mm-hmm. And where I am in my life today is that I am fighting for freedom, but I'm fighting from freedom, because my Christian walk is my first point. My faith will not allow me to waver from my peace of mind of being free. I can't change the world around me, and as much as I would love to, I can only appreciate the grace and mercy that God has given me. So that's why I'm able to speak from that place of freedom from that. But I have to fight for the freedom of my peers. One of the things that we have to do as believers and non-believers is reach one, teach one, or each one, teach one. If I can teach a man or woman to fish, they will never go hungry again. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that freedom can do for us is by being free here and mentally and spiritually and fighting for my brothers and sisters and with my brothers and sisters, is that it is my responsibility to teach one to fish. Right. So while I may not be the entrepreneurial that Velton and Brian and Terrence, Ulrich and Trent are, but I may have a talent in corporate America. I may have a talent in trade. I may have a talent in being a barber. Don't judge my haircut. But there are certain things that we have talent that we must use to set other people free. Yeah. And then lastly is I don't take for granted freedom. I must fight for my freedom, and I have to continue to fight from my freedom in order to be free. To stay free, you got to keep fighting for it.
Yes.
Because if you don't keep fighting for it, you will be back in the hands of slavery and oppression of your mind, of your money, and of your aptitude. And I refuse at this point in my life to allow another brother or sister to take steps backwards into oppression. Yeah. Because that is not what freedom is. And the goal is for all of us, like Harriet, she went back as a free slave to free her brothers and sisters.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fight for freedom, from freedom.
Use it or lose it.
Mm-hmm. Well said, man. Well said.
Love it.
Definitely well said. Well said. And there's a comment in the chat from you guys that says, "Don't take freedom for granted."
Okay.
And it came from Ulrich as you were talking, and I wanted to highlight that from Ulrich. Don't take freedom for granted, because I think that sums up what all of you said as you talked about freedom and just talked about fighting, whether it's for or from or both, depending on the time and with who and all of those things. I don't want to be remiss that today is Dr. Martin Luther King Day, day of remembrance of him and the fight that he had for us, civil rights, and just being able to the protests, the marching, and peace, right? And having a bigger vision beyond his life. And even quoting him, said, "I may not get there with you," when he did his "I Have a Dream" speech, right? But I know that it's coming. And some of those things have come to pass. And to quote Terrence a little bit, may not come in our time, right? We may not see some things, but we can make some of the changes now that affect our future, our children and grandchildren and great-great-great-great-grandchildren in ways that they have a better life. I want to leave the last question with this. I'm going to read a couple of quotes that Dr. Martin Luther King had, and I want to read them because there is what you guys have said today, and I want to just show how this is not just today, right? We can look back and probably even before him on a lot of these things as well. And and the quote that I end with is I have a question with that last quote for you guys as we round up, and then let you guys kind of give your last parting thoughts, because this has been good. This has been really good, and I've enjoyed this with you guys. So, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Is the first quote. And you guys talked about that. You guys talked about this. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And you talked about, I'm going to tell you where I really saw that. I think it was Trent that talked about the difference in Republican versus Trump followers. Mm-hmm. There's a difference. There was hate there. There was a little bit deeper than just a political view that was happening. And I think that gets missed a lot in the media, and it's just called all Republicans. The time is always right to do what is right. Linwood,
mm-hmm.
You said that a couple of times. You know, the time is always right to do what is right.
Right.
A riot is the language of the unheard.
Ah.
I don't care which side you sit on. We're not going to always agree, and everybody has a right to protest and to march. But a riot is a language of the unheard. And you guys spoke about that, about the people, of the way they were feeling. And that came out in the riot and the attacks that happened on the Capitol. In the end, not saying it's right, just saying that's what it was. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorites.
Bam.
Who said one of my favorites?
Drop the mic on that one.
Drop the mic on that one.
Yes,
and
yes.
You guys talked about that as you talked about being the token Black friend,
mm-hmm.
or the new Mrs. Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And congratulations to your son, by the way, right? Or the new whoever that may be a friend of ours. And how do you stand with me, you know, when those tough times come? Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. That definitely speaks to the platform of Voices of a Black Man and why we have this platform, but more importantly, why we have to address what's happening and what's going on.
Absolutely.
Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? You guys talked about this as you talked about leadership. And it wasn't just about your personal agenda, but it was about others. We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to leave you with this last one, and this is where I have my question. And any of these, the question is on the last one, but if any of them hit you a certain way and you want to just extend on it a little bit and talk about it a little bit, that's fine with me. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort
and
convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversies. If you guys could speak on that last quote.
That is my most favorite quote by Dr. Martin Luther King, because it hits me where I live. First of all, I'm a man. And second of all, the definition of a man changes based upon when things are good and when things are bad. You know, they say in talking about leadership, when everything's going good, you blame it on the leader. When everything's going bad, you blame it on the leader. So in times of comfort and convenience, it's easy to say, it's easy to step up and say, I'm the leader. Yeah, it's me. But when a controversy comes up, when challenges come up, when you have to lead the people that you serve because they're confused and they're discombobulated and they're looking for a glimmer of hope and something to look to, that's when you really get to use that measuring stick of where you are as a man. And, you know, I every time I look at that quote, you know, I've heard that quote when I was in my 20s. So I had a chance to see where I was as a man in my 20s. And now that I'm in my 50s, I look at that measuring stick again based upon the challenges I had to overcome, not so much the comfort and contentment I may have had along the way. And it resonates with me more and more because each challenge gives me that opportunity to stretch myself as a man. Each challenge gives me the opportunity to see where do I stand in integrity? What are my values? What are my views? What do I think? What do I agree with? What do I don't agree with? What will I stand for or what will I just let go by the wayside? And it's because of that I'm able to speak out the way I speak out. It's because of that I'm able to walk in a level of confidence about who I am and whose I am, because I can look back on those challenges that I've gone through. I can look through those controversies that I've had to work my way through and see how I've grown as a man. And I didn't do that. You can't do that sitting on the couch. You can't do that with the lights out. You can't do that with the blinds closed. The only way you're going to stretch yourself and really figure out who you are as a man and as a woman is by putting yourself out there and seeing how you handle the difficult times. Because the difficult times, if they don't kill you, they're the things that make you stronger.
I think both require a level of humility. And I use it like in a coaching analogy. Things are good, as you said, oh, coach, that was a great game, or something goes wrong. I'm like, you know what? That was on me. That was my call. It didn't work out the way I said it, but that was my call. And I think even in life, we have to show humility with ourselves and be willing to, continue to stretch ourselves. This is, for the record, this has been magnificent for me. I've always loved talking to Brian. Brian is just a powerful brother that I've known for years, and I'm glad to meet you, man. I want to make sure I say that. I don't want to be remiss not to say that. It's a pleasure meeting you, brothers. Iron sharpening iron. Our yokes are getting stronger. We're something special. And Sherelle, for you even putting this together again, I'm going off topic a little bit, but thank you so much for your obedience and putting this together and hearing the words and say, hey, let's put some strong men together, because I promise you, for what we have to offer and who we are and where we're going and how we continue to sharpen each other, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. I just want to thank you for that. But I still think, like I said, the humility is big for me. I think you have to be humility in victory and humility in defeat. You have to be in both. And I think it's, you have to.
Well, since you called my name, let me say thank you to you first off. I've known you many years. Back in the late 90s, Trent, when my company was just really, really getting ramped up, you were one of my first few clients back then, Yeah, you was one of the first. So I always remember you for that. But what I want to add to the question Sister Sherelle offered was, and so in the strife and the battles of life, it's easy to fight when you're winning. It's easy to smile and save, or even go hungry and be brave when the dawn of success is beginning. But the man who can meet despair and defeat with a cheer, now that's the man of God's choosing, because the man who can fight to heaven's own height is the man who can fight when he's losing. And I think that's such an amazing point. The ones who can fight even when they're losing, the ones who can serve even when it's not going well. King Day is very important to me. I study him every King Day as much as I can, but his day is very, very important to me. And you guys have inspired me to remember that old school poem. That's a very old poem. I haven't said it in many, many years, but y'all brought it up in me. And I want us to all remember, it's easy to fight when you're winning, but the one who can fight the heaven's own height is the ones who can fight when they're losing. Mm-hmm. That's all.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good, Brian.
I love it. That's great.
Have I said to you today, I love you? If not,
I haven't heard you say it.
Well, let me say it now to you, gentlemen, and to you, Miss Sherelle, and even those in the production. I love you. And you know what? And if I wasn't the first person to tell you today I love you, you know what? I'm blessed to have the opportunity to say it from my mouth. I love you. And I don't say it because it's just something hip to do, or it's just a cliche, or it's just something that just makes me feel good inside. The word love is such a word of action that I can sit and stand, or in this situation, sit flat-footed with unadulterated, unfiltered love and say with conviction and power, I love you. Could you imagine what the world would be if President 45 Donald Trump had just uttered the words to the American people, not to those people? Hey, not hate, but love. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote, and I wrote it down. It says, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. You know, for all too long, I will only speak about the small things at home, to my wife, to my mom and dad, to my friends. I would only speak about these injustices and things that were bothering me only in my private circles, because I was told that I had no voice, and that a Black man's voice was not to be heard, but was to be suppressed, because we're angry and we're volatile. Well, over the last few years, and then as seen as a culmination of George Floyd, Tamir Rice, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and then countless other names that aren't even listed, has made me realize that my silence can no longer be anymore. I must stand on the backbones of my fallen brothers and sisters who fought for my freedoms. I must stand on the shoulders of my grandparents who are no longer here for the fights that they did just for me to have the right to vote. And I would no longer sit on the sidelines and allow my friends and allow my children and allow the kids and those who look like me to feel that they are oppressed because they don't look like the rest of the world. My Blackness is my power. My Blackness is my beauty. My Blackness is my claim to fame. But it's my love that will change the game. So I love it in the way that only love can come. And that's from my genuine heart to you. And so I say to the world, and I say to you, my brothers, I'm so proud of you. But yes, I love you.
Amen.
All right, young blood.
All right. 41 years of that, right?
That was
Man,
me.
beyond his years.
That was me. So I'll go.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right.
hey, I just want to say thanks for having this, Sherelle, and just like everybody else just said, this is amazing. And I think I am the young buck, but I was always taught that when you're in a room with people that are smarter and wiser than you, that you listen. And man, I've gotten some nuggets and just some inspiration from each one of you, men, and you, Sherelle, always. You know, you're like, you should be running for president next time. So let's do it. But you know, based on everybody, I got a couple just closing thoughts. And I write it down because I have a bad memory. I took too many hits to the head in my college football career. But I think we should, you know, just have a plan to serve people, to love people. And the one thing, I was on a call this morning, and a lady was giving her testimony, and it's so relevant to our world today. And she ended and said, "Come from behind the curtain." And I think we all need to come from behind the curtain, even if we are in a place where we're doing some great things. I think Belton said it, you know, always trying to reach back to pull somebody up. And I think Linwood talked about it. Trent talked about it. Brian talked about it. Just, hey, making sure that we can live the lives that we want to live by helping other people, whether that's by serving them, by educating them, by pulling them up. And then I think, you know, the last thing that I'll leave with in the quote that you read, it made me just think about, you know, I myself am charged to, and I hope everyone listening is charged to, I hope and pray that, hey, be comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that is critical. And then the last thing, this lady was telling a story this morning, and she said that a man was having a conversation with God, and the man said, "Nobody has ever done it." And God said to him, "That's why I told you to do it."
Love it. Love it. Well, I guess, you know, the quote by Dr. Martin Luther King is probably one of my favorite quotes of all time, because it just puts things in perspective of the necessity for Black men like us to step forward in these difficult times and lead and give our perspective. And Sherelle, I'm just privileged and honored that you've asked me to join this group again. These brothers, a few of you I've met, a few of you I know, but I feel privileged to have the opportunity to spend time learning from each and every one of you. And Dr. King is as I said, was one of my favorite people, but there's another quote that I love that was that's very similar to that. And it says, you should lead from behind in good times when things are going well and allow other people to enjoy the accolades. A true leader steps forward in difficult times and in times of trouble, and people will honor and respect your leadership. We are in that situation, and that quote was from Nelson Mandela, who struggled in South Africa to eliminate apartheid. We have a similar struggle here, even though we have denied it for many, many years because it was somewhat covert. But until all of us are free, none of us are free. And right now, we as a people, Americans, no matter what our race, creed, color, or religion, are not free. Because there's one thing that we don't have that's necessary for anybody to be free or any team to be great. And I know Trent will probably recognize this, but good teams become great when the players learn to trust each other enough to replace me with we. And we are Americans first and foremost. And until we realize that that's who we truly are and who we truly represent, we're always going to have difficulties. We're always going to have thoughts of privilege that are going to overtake each other. But the last thing that I'm going to say is we have to remember that no matter who's on top, the oppressed will always try to unseat the oppressor. Until there's parity and equalization, we're always going to have a struggle.
That's great. Great stuff.
Thank you so much for that.
And thank you, Sherelle, again. Yeah. And, I was looking at my feed and there's a comment, and I think this is why you do what you do and why we are all privileged. There's that word again, to be a part of this. There's a young mother in the feed that says, my son is gaining so much from you, family. Thank you for making time to demonstrate powerful men. And that's why we do what we do, because there's some young man that's looking at us that we may never meet, we may never see. And he's trying to see if we're just going to sit and be comfortable, or if we're going to stand and make a difference, not for us, but for him.
For him. That's right.
I believe Sam Cooke said it best. I know that I know a change gonna come. And
now,
he brought it up.
You just want to sing. You don't play 3 songs, brother. Go ahead and sing. Just sing. Give him the mic, Sherelle. Let him sing.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, it is. You know what I mean? So I'm going to say to y'all, what he saw in the 60s and what he was singing about change going to come, and Martin Luther King Jr. talking about the dream, I still have hope, man. And you brothers, man, Sherelle, this is a representation of hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hope. And I just thank y'all for sowing that to the world, that there is hope. So that's why I believe a change.
It doesn't cost a thing to smile.
Yes, it is.
You don't have to pay to laugh. There's hope. Come on, then what you want to sing?
Where's the musician? Catch me after the show, man. Catch me.
So Trent, did you go?
What can I say behind this? I mean, I think we've touched on many areas, and at this point, it's go time. We have to stay in go mode. It's go time. This is great that we've had this, But like so many other, they always say more dreams are buried in the cemetery than they are living, because people just didn't have the, didn't go forward with that, and
place on earth.
yeah, and I think it's, our job is bring, I'm a believer too. Our job is bring heaven on earth. And I've told many people, I said, today God's in control. I said, some of this is to wake us up. Then what do we do with this wake up call? What do we do with this? I think, we have to be very diligent. We have to stay the course. I think it's very important we stay connected, because, we say iron sharpens iron, but if this is the last time, I get to talk to Belton, well, I feel like I've lost something if I can't reach back and talk to him. So I hope we get all these numbers and everything in the chat box to make sure we all can connect. But I think, as we say, it's on. It's go time. We were built warriors. I mean, as Black men, as our ancestors, we're overcomers. Everything that the world is trying to do to us has not worked. You enslaved us. We got free. Then we start owning land. There was things that we did. So we're fighters by nature. By nature, we fight together, and when and we have to reach back. We have to reach back. We have to be humble. We have to lift others up. We have to be exemplary as we can. We have to connect, and when brothers start seeing other brothers start bonding and doing some strong things, we're going to bring those other guys up as well. You know the brothers, we've seen them, and I'll look at them, they think they're doing something different. No, man, we're just trying to do something better. We're just trying to do better. That's all we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. And I think as long as we don't lose sight of that, stay prayed up in crazy times. But stay humble, stay driven, stay focused. We're going to be unbeatable. We're going to be unbeatable. And as they say, this too shall pass. And in 2 days, this too shall pass.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I always say that I'm humbled just when I send out the call and you respond, and you've not let me down yet. I thank you so much for trusting me enough to come on this platform and to share your heart, to share your wisdom, to share the truth through your lens. I so appreciate each and every one of you and what you attribute to our society, to your communities, to the world as a whole, and what you allow and give me so that we can all together impact a nation and a world. Knowing that the Black man is a man, he's human, who happens to be Black with their own dreams, aspirations, knowing that there's things that need to change in America. I thank you so much for pouring your heart out for me today. With me, for me, I say for me, because I believe that. I know we have an audience, but I have so enjoyed, and I learn each time that I come and sit at each one of your feet. I learn more and more about beautiful Black men as a whole and as individuals. So I say thank you to each one of you. I want to say to Linwood and the rest of you, I love you. Thank you so much. I love you too. Yes, I just learned this from the young people.
Love you, brothers. Love you, brothers.
Pop heart. Yes, I love you. I love you. Thank you so much. And that's what we need more of in being vulnerable, more of saying, I love you, more of being transparent.
That's right.
To our audience, I want to say thank you so much, whether you've watched this live or you're watching a replay of this. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening today to what each and every man on the panel had to say. Now, I hope that there's something that hit you just a little bit differently as they were talking, something that allows you to dive deeper into yourself, to put a mirror up to yourself first, to say, what do I need to change? Because it's true that we change by changing ourselves first, then impacting our family, our communities, and the world. It's up to each and every one of us. Doesn't mean that we have to agree on everything, but it also means that we all have to start at the human line, not subhuman, not anything other than human, but we have to start at the human line with each other and see each other as human beings, Americans together. You know, United States isn't the United States because of just its name. It's because of each and individual person who makes up the United States of America. The commonalities we have, the differences we have, the uniqueness we have, our cultures and backgrounds make United States so colorful and unlike any other country. And we have to remember that. Again, we can disagree to agree. Or let me say it this way, we can agree to disagree. Better way to say it. Humanity, civility, we've got to get it back. Equality, equity, it's definitely a start. Diversity and inclusion. Before you walk and see someone coming towards you, is your first thought negative? Or is that thought a positive thought of just seeing another human being? We've got to check ourselves. I thank you so much for watching this town hall today. Can you hear me now? The part 2. To learn more, to see part 1, to re-see part 2, or to learn about each and every guest we had today's story and other Black men's stories through their lenses, please visit us at our website, www.voicesofablackman.com. Know that you can leave comments there, as well as learn about what else we have going on, because 2021, we've got a lot of work to do in 2021. And I'm super excited to have these men along with me. Until next time, my name is Sherelle James, founder of the Voices of a Black Man. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful night.